Manx Radio's Update with Dave Moore.
The time is 5 o'clock. You are listening to Manx Radio. I am Dave Moore and this is Update. Welcome to the programme. Half an hour of the latest news in the Isle of Man, plus Manx sport, business and travel updates, along with the newsmakers in person. Coming up, armed police on the streets of Douglas will have the latest. The Public Services Commission defends the body's potential legal breach. Plus, the Southern MHK wants to see more skilled children with using travel cards. That's all coming up in the next half hour. But first of all, the Update News headlines with Christian Jones. Fastamai.
A man has been arrested in what police are describing as a domestic dispute on Murray's Road. Armed police were called to the scene and the road was shut for several hours. Local primary school children were relocated too. The Chief Minister insists that realigning Manx Care's mandate to fit the upcoming budget is not a move towards austerity. The government recently rejected some of the health body's proposed cost-saving measures that would have impacted frontline services. The Treasury Minister has been defending his decision to scrap My Cards, saying the move will only affect a small number of people. The cards, which will end on the 31st of December 2025, are used by some to collect their benefit or pension payments from the post office. And last month was warmer and drier than average for October. Ronaldsway Met Office recorded a mean daily maximum temperature of 14.2 degrees Celsius, which is 0.4 degrees above the 30-year average. In international news, Donald Trump has voted in the US presidential election in Florida. He's among millions of Americans who are choosing whether to put him or Democrat Kamala Harris into the White House. A Labour MP has been mugged on the way back to his London flat. Chris Webb says he was targeted for his phone by a group of individuals who are on bikes and wearing balaclavas. And a leading post office campaigner says he's yet to receive a reply from Sir Keir Starmer. Sir Alan Bates wrote to the UK Prime Minister over a month ago, saying the clock was still ticking on a financial redress deadline for victims of the Horizon IT scandal. Those are the Update News headlines, next at 6.
Thank you, Christian. Looking at the weather now, this evening and tonight will be cloudy with hill fog and some patchy outbreaks of drizzle. Also a risk of some coastal mist and fog developing later as the southeast wind turns to the south. Minimum temperature no lower than 10 Celsius. Tomorrow will continue to be cloudy and dull with further pockets of drizzle and the risk of some coastal mist and fog patches. The light southeasterly breeze will freshen later in the day with highs around 14 Celsius. Rather cloudy again on Thursday, although a few brighter spells may break through the cloud at times during the afternoon. Maximum temperature around 14 Celsius once more with a mainly moderate southeasterly wind.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Many people are struggling. You can help by volunteering or making a donation to Isle of Man Food Bank, whether it be food or essential items or financial support. Please call 646 999, brought to you by Descon Office Interiors.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Beldorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
Reach the Isle of Man's biggest radio audience with Manx Radio. Airtime, sponsorship and digital opportunities available. For more information on how we can help your business grow its market share, contact the friendly, experienced team on sales at manxradio.com.
For a wide range of wood-burning stoves and a complete installation service, visit The Snug in Ramsey. And we don't stop there. Kiln-dried firewood and full aftercare service, including chimney sweeps and maintenance. Call The Snug in Ramsey.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
A man has been arrested following reports of a domestic dispute in Murray's Road in Douglas. As a result, the road was shut for several hours and local primary school children were relocated. Siobhan Fletcher joins me now. Siobhan, what do we know?
Yes, Dave. So like you said there, Murray's Road in Douglas was shut as officers dealt with what they described as a contained incident. Armed police were spotted on the scene and people were warned to stay away from the area. Meanwhile, children from the Skull and Jubilee Primary School juniors were relocated to its infant school site on nearby Stony Road. The update from the school confirmed that all children were safe, and the move was just to ensure there would be clear access to be able to collect children at the normal collection time. The incident has now been confirmed as a domestic dispute. In a statement, the Isle of Man Constabulary said at 10:50am today, police responded to a report of domestic dispute at an address in Murray's Road. The available information was assessed, and it was determined that it was necessary to deploy armed response officers, supported by unarmed officers and police negotiators, to the scene. In order to negate any risk to those involved, the officers, and with consideration of the wider public, they closed the road temporarily, and a nearby school was informed of the situation. They add the matter was resolved by 3:10 this afternoon with the arrest of a male, and the road was reopened. They say it's regrettable that this incident caused some minor degree of impact to the community, but this was in order to ensure they were not placed at risk and to effectively apprehend a suspect.
Sharon Fletcher reporting. Chief Minister Alfred Cannon says he's committing to intense discussions between the Department of Health and Social Care and Manx Care to strengthen governance and realign the mandate before the next budget. It comes as his government rejects some of the health body's cost-saving proposals which would have affected frontline services. Christian Jones asked Mr Cannon where he's expecting to see savings instead.
What we're saying to Manx Care is that they need to continue to find efficiencies and effectiveness and to start to close the financial gap, and that they need to work hard to continue to close that financial gap, find the efficiencies and savings that they can this year, and that we need to all collectively apply our minds to ensuring that the budget for next year has attached to it a proper operating plan and a mandate that is deliverable within the financial framework they are offered within the budget.
Let's touch on that mandate, because you say that you're going to be realigning the mandate and service provision available for next year. Realigning the mandate is PR speak for austerity, isn't it?
No, it's not, Christian. I think what we need to do is to have an operating plan in terms of the operation that is being conducted within Manx Care, aligned with the mandate in terms of ensuring that what the mandate says is realistic and is deliverable, and that is in turn aligned with the budget. At the moment, it seems to me that it's quite disjointed in terms of when the mandate is put forward, when the operating plan is put forward, and how the budget is aligned with that. And there are clearly rooms for improvement, and we need to find those improvements, and we need to work together collectively to try and sort this out in the greater interests of the island.
It was Coman that asked Manx Care to drop these cost-saving proposals, wasn't it? So you now don't like the answers you've been given. So can this be seen as anything but virtue signalling?
No, council ministers are very clear in terms of the position that they have adopted with Manx Care's overspend. It's just unacceptable, Christian. Right? It's absolutely unacceptable on a number of accounts, not least because last year we put in another £43 million into health and did a call on the taxpayer for additional taxation. If we allow this situation to carry on, it's effectively equivalent of asking the taxpayers for another 10% tax rise. And not only that, if we don't address it and we continue in the same framework, our reserves are going to be significantly damaged by this continuous build-up of healthcare spending over and above what its budget is in terms of the allocation that's put forward. So on a number of grounds, it's been an unacceptable position. Council have rightly told the board at Manx Care and asked the board at Manx Care to do everything they can to streamline the organisation and to close the financial gap. We cannot support the cuts to frontline services which have been put forward.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Russian MHK Michelle Haywood says there should be more effort to help school children use go-cards in a constructive manner. During House of Keys question time today, it was argued the present school's timetable, especially in the evenings, made that difficult. Dr. Hayward says that was hindering many young people from using their evenings constructively.
I think the changes that we've made are quite significant because we used to allow children over 2 hours after school had concluded to be able to use their cards to get home. And sometimes I've had children who've ended up at sports events. They end up at the wrong school trying to get home, but they're still trying to get home nonetheless. And by bringing the time earlier, all we've done is left it so you can't actually play a football match after school and then get the school bus home.
It's all done among me, isn't it?
I'm not sure what the decision was made for. It doesn't seem to be done with any concept of an impact assessment on the service users. And what we should be doing is encouraging our children to be out and about. We should be encouraging them to do after-school activities and to stay there and to know they can get safely home, not to decide that actually they're not going to join in with the football team or the netball team because they won't be able to get home afterwards. And on a dark winter's night, it'll be a phone call to parents, or that'll be from the mobile phones that we're trying to ban in schools. It'll be a phone call to parents to come and pick them up. It just seems like a daft situation to me.
The Minister was emphasising that quite a few of these journeys are taken to places that are not taking the children home. They're taking them into Douglas, taking them into town.
And it might be that they're going to do after-school activities elsewhere, and we should encourage that.
Well, they might just be going on the town.
Well, they might be, but part of the brilliant thing about the Manx community is that we have so many things that young children can get involved in. And getting our young teens out, and if they're going to arts or if they're going to sports events and stuff, then that's all fine. And we should be supporting them to get home.
You're listening to Manx Radio. This is Update. The chair of the Public Services Commission's defended the body's potential legal breach by failing to produce annual reports, stating they needed significant restructuring. Kate Lord-Brennan faced scrutiny from backbench MHKs who questioned why the report hasn't been published since 2021, despite the legal requirement to submit it to Tynwald at the end of each financial year. She instead promised a combined 2022 and 23 report to be published in January next year. Ramsey MHK Laurie Hooper is less than impressed.
Since July 2021, we actually haven't had a report, so there hasn't been a single PSC report laid in front of Tynwald for the entirety of this administration. Can the Minister, the Chair, confirm really why it has taken such an amount of time for them to bring this report forwards? Because it is quite evident that the government is not complying with the requirements of the Act for this report to be produced as soon as practicable. I cannot even begin to understand why this is considered to be acceptable to wait this amount of time in order to comply with the very basic provision of the statute.
Chair to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I reject the assertion that breach has been undertaken. It does require for a report to be prepared as soon as practicable. That obviously has meaning that it should be able to be done and it should be in a form which is useful and relevant, and that is something that I am seeking to do with this report. I'm afraid the Honourable Questioner is rather stretching things when he indicates that they've been going on for so long. As Chair of the Commission, I obviously had to wait to get a report for further approval. Mr. Speaker, I'm just simply not the type of MHK or Chair or Minister that I'm just going to sign off whatever the civil service presents to me and go, yes, that's okay. I appreciate sometimes you need to get more involved and try and drive the way forward, and that may take time, but I'm doing it for good reason, not just for the keeping of routine.
Moving on to business matters now, and politicians in the Channel Islands are considering additional legal advice as they continue to debate the future of Jersey's passenger and freight ferry services. Their Economic Development Minister, Kirsten Morel, says that the further positive discussions had taken place yesterday on whether the island would choose Danish shipping giant DFDS or rival bidder Brittany Ferries, which owns incumbent operator Condor, to provide ferry services to islanders, for the next 15 years. Jersey and Guernsey had previously been expected to make a joint decision before the end of last month. On to trading, and UK and European stocks traded slightly higher as global markets geared up for the US presidential election. The dollar fell as investors treaded carefully, with a US Federal Reserve interest rate cut also expected later in the week. Oil prices traded in a narrow range after rising more than 2% in the previous session as OPEC delayed plans to hike production in December. And gold prices edged up as investors braced for political tensions after opinion polls showed Donald Trump and Kamala Harris neck and neck in the presidential election, where chances of a contested result are high. Let's look at the markets. At the close, FTSE 100, 8,172, down 0.14%. The Dow Jones at 42,095 is up 0.72%. The Nasdaq at 18,387 is up plus 1.14%. The exchange rates, the pound against the dollar, 1.300. Against the euro, 1.191. In commodities, gold is at $2,736 US. That's up 0.04%. With Brent at $76.02. That's up 1.25%.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsay Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsay Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramsaycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Treasury Minister Alex Allinson's been defending his decision to scrap My Cards. He was asked in the House of Keys what assessment has been made of the impact of removing the service. The cards, which will end on December the 31st next year, are used by some to collect their benefit or pension payments from the post office. Mr Allinson insists only a small number of people will be affected.
Under the current contract, Treasury pays around £565,000 a year to the Isle of Man Post Office to provide the My Card service. Around 3,000 people currently use the My Card service. As they are transitioned towards payment into their bank or online accounts over the course of the next 14 months, the amount paid by Treasury for BACS transactions will increase. This additional cost must be offset against the savings arising from ending the My Card contract with the Post Office. Social Security officers have recently contacted the local branches of Barclays, HSBC, the Isle of Man Bank, Lloyds International and Santander. They all confirmed that they can offer a basic current account to Isle of Man residents who can provide photographic ID, proof of address and their tax number. There are no standing fees for this type of account, there is no fee for cash withdrawals, and there is no overdraft facility. A debit card is provided to the account holder. As I said earlier, around 3,000 people currently use the My Card service. It isn't possible to say how many of them have existing bank or online accounts, but it is thought to be the vast majority of them. For existing users, the My Card service will continue to be available until the 31st of December 2025. So those who don't already have a bank account or online account will have up to 14 months to open one before the My Card service is withdrawn. The Treasury have also been discussing other arrangements with the credit union. Treasury is also exploring the possibility of providing prepaid debit cards and cash payments to customers who, for whatever reason, cannot or will not open a bank account. When we look at the total number of people who get benefits, and we look at the total number who are receiving them via My Card, it is a very, very small fraction of that. And what we're doing is not removing that access to cash, but doing that access to cash in a different way, so that in fact I would hope that people will be even more encouraged to spend that in the local community.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, the good news this evening is that at the ports and the airport there are no delays. Everything is due to arrive or depart and arrive on time, and no major delays on the roads either.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
Quayside. Castletown commissioners met last night to discuss a number of issues affecting the town, including the controversial decision to close the square to vehicles during winter months. It also discussed the opening of the Civic Hall and a public consultation into living streets. Local Democracy reporter Emma Draper was at the meeting.
The commissioners received letters from 2 business owners in the town and 2 residents about the closure of the square to vehicles all year round. Chair Beth Cannon said at the beginning that she and the clerk had been subject to unfounded comments online about the decision and said claims made about her having a financial interest in the closure were not true. Mrs Cannon said she had been open and transparent about her work with markets and the basis for the closure was not for this event. She added many of the shops in the town are either appointment only or have flexible hours, and the town is becoming less of a service centre. Commissioner Colin Leather said he had visited 16 of the businesses in the town and asked them if they were for or against the move. He said 11 were in favour of pedestrianisation, 4 were against the decision, and 1 shop owner said they were neither for or against. The board said they had received an acknowledgement from the Department of Infrastructure that it's in support of the closure of the square, but are now waiting for approval from the Minister. Also on the agenda was an update on the Civic Hall. A letter was sent to the Commissioners requesting the use of the hall for local Scout and Guide groups from next January. The clerk confirmed the building should be reopened next year, but is currently being used for storage whilst other developments are taking place. The board agreed not to take any bookings until there is a confirmed date for opening. It also resolved to look at costs, deposits and operating times in a private meeting. A Living Streets consultation has been released looking into Castletown to determine what residents think about 20-mile-an-hour zones and if streets should be made one way. The clerk said there are 2 drop-in sessions for residents in the afternoons of 13th of November and 21st of November, but the board said they were disappointed there weren't any in the evening for people who work.
You're tuned to Manx Radio. This is Update. The Department for Enterprise wants the Isle of Man to be a leader in sustainable finance, and today unveiled a 2-year roadmap to show how it can do just that. Produced by Finance Isle of Man, the document includes a 10-point action plan with targets to tackle greenwashing, improve transparency, and boost job opportunities in the sustainability sector. But what exactly is sustainable finance, and should we care? Michael Crowe, Chief Executive Officer of Finance Isle of Man, and Greg Easton, Chair of the Sustainable Financing Steering Group, have been talking to Lewis Foster.
The global rise of sustainable finance, it's really moved from being a niche part of the financial services community to a more central core of modern financial markets. The financial services industry in the Isle of Man represents approximately half of our economy, and it's really important that we make sure that we continue to innovate and evolve in this sector, and the creation of the Sustainable Finance Initiative and the launch of the roadmap is key to the future expansion and ongoing success of our financial services community.
The steering group was established by Finance Isle of Man to really bring together the expertise that already exists on the island, but also then to shape a 2-year roadmap, which we're launching at the symposium. That roadmap then goes through 4 key pillars, really. So pillar 1 is the enabling environment. So that's making sure that as finance sector we're prepared and we're ready for it. Pillar 2 is developing capacity. So over the next 2 years is upskilling across every sector, so that 30% of our employees across financial services have that knowledge and expertise and experience. And then pillar 3 is probably the most exciting one. That's the innovation piece. It's mobilising capital. So it's looking at things like the Isle of Man nature market and bringing biodiversity and finance together. And then pillar 4 is actually kind of what we're doing here and taking that out globally, so that that international market can recognise kind of our natural advantage as a biosphere, whole nation biosphere, and come to us whether they're looking for investment management that's sustainable, banking and green loans, whether they're looking to register their ecological assets here, or looking at things like the captive sector as well, and how that's shifting and changing.
We've heard about things like carbon credits in the past, and I want you to talk us through these action points as well. And one of those action points is all about greenwashing. How will we tackle that in the future?
Yeah, I think it's a really critical question, and it's with high integrity. So actually we had an example of what we did at CrossAgs, which was a pilot project that brought together several businesses as well as Manx Wildlife Trust, and just being able to demonstrate that what we are doing has that integrity to it. And then think the other side of that is the anti-greenwashing element of it and the labelling piece, and making sure if someone's saying they're doing something sustainable, that we've got the framework and the evidence and the data to be able to demonstrate that.
Remember, it is the 5th of November and pets tend to get spooked, as we hear a lot about this time of year. You know, it can be difficult keeping them nice and calm. Here's advice from the MSPCA's Krish Baruch ahead of tonight's festivities.
So I'd say all pets are different. So if you have dogs, cats, it can be as wide as rabbits, horses, etc. Things that you can do to prepare for tonight, the loud bangs and the lovely lights going off. If you are walking your dog, please walk them earlier on. So as soon as it gets dark, you can expect, if it's not the normal Douglas fireworks going off, it would be some neighbours' fireworks going off as well. Always make sure that your dog is up to date on microchip in case they do manage to escape and get out. Same with your cats. And if you are able to lock your cat flaps on your doors and keep your dogs in, we recommend doing that just to make sure that they're safe and they're inside and that out on the loose on the roads or anything. Same with rabbits, make sure they're indoors. If you have got pets inside, pop the radio on, pop some enrichment on, and hopefully it'll blind them out. Close your curtains over. You're still able to enjoy them from your window, of course, as long as your dogs are safe. If they are getting a little bit shaky and they are a bit scared, always have a safe space set up for them, whether that be an open crate or maybe just a little igloo, like a den of sofas or blankets, etc. It's something they can hide into so they can relax a bit more. But always with the enrichment, gives them something nice to chew on or something as a licky mat, and hopefully they will get a lot better throughout the night.
Sport on the way, but first of all, could an alliance between the Liberal Vannin Party, Manx Labour and a loose affiliation between the likes of Chris Thomas and other MHKs provide more effective politics? And if so, what does Liberal Vannin Chair Laurie Hooper think of this suggestion?
Sounds like what you're talking about there is sort of a coalition of sorts. And actually, in principle, there's no issue with that. I work quite closely with the Labour Party anyway on a regular basis. I've got no issue working with Chris or anyone else really that wants to work together, provided, of course, we all share the same views on things.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas says the views are coming closer and closer. Would you agree with that?
I would say that a lot more people are now starting to support things that have been in Liberal Vannin policy for a very long time. I think it's fair to say.
So they're coming towards you?
That's the way I think of it, actually. And when you look back at the things we're proposing and things we're talking about, there's definitely more of a shift towards that kind of centre-left position that we hold really as a party. So I think in principle there's nothing wrong with working together, as it were. But actually you've got to be effective, and I think that's the key thing, is looking at the best way of, now that we are back in opposition.
Wouldn't you be effective if you had greater clout?
It's possible, but not always. Actually, I've found that in the last week or so, since I've been a backbencher, I've already managed to delay a piece of legislation because it was problematic. And that was supposed to be on the second reading for tomorrow. It's not happening now. It's been delayed. As Treasury are going to go back and have another rethink. Didn't need a majority of members in the House to do that. It's just about effective application and essentially doing the job in front of you.
But would a fairly large opposition have a beneficial effect on politics in the island?
It could do. I think you would end up with much more effective scrutiny, actually, if you had a stronger opposition bench, which we haven't really had, if I'm honest. Over here, the way it's supposed to work is our scrutiny committees are supposed to fulfil some of that function, and to my mind, they really haven't been that effective over the last couple of years. So yes, I think you're right. Having a larger grouping of people working together with the same aims, with a shared set of goals, absolutely is the way forward. That's why I argue for party politics, because in essence, that's what a party structure is supposed to give you.
Let's move on to sport, and here is Manx Radio Sports editor Rob Pritchard. Faster my.
Faster my, Dave. Well, we'll start with athletics, and Manx athlete Sarah Aston has become a national cross-country champion once again in England. The Ireland competitor was part of the three-strong Belgrave Harriers team, which successfully defended its national relay title at Berryhill Park in Mansfield on Sunday. It's Sarah's third national cross-country title in the last 2 years, as she became individual national champion in 2023, as well as helping the squad to team honours. Sarah's sister Gemma Aston was also part of the title-winning Belgrave Harriers group last year, but has been absent recently due to injury. Elsewhere, the Isle of Man badminton team secured back-to-back wins to finish strong on the final day of this year's Small States of Europe Badminton Team Championships last weekend. Victories on the final day of the event last Sunday, first against Monaco and then Liechtenstein, saw the Manx squad claim 7th place overall at the second edition of the event in Nicosia in Cyprus. Day 1 saw the Isle of Man register a tough start in the group stages, opening with defeats to Greenland and Malta. However, they bounced back emphatically on Sunday in the positions 7-9 playoffs. First up was a comprehensive 5-0 win against Monaco. It was the same story in the final playoff contest against Liechtenstein, as the Isle of Man ran out 5-0 winners again, once more in straight sets across all 5 matches. Well, looking forward, the Isle of Man Badminton Association's attention now turns to the opening weekend of this year's Badminton England Senior County Championships on this Saturday, the 9th of November. And finally, Isle of Man snooker competitor Daryl Hill's latest IBSF World Amateur Championships campaign has come to an end with a narrow 3-4 defeat to India's Saurav Kothari in the last 16 stage. The game went to a 7th and deciding frame after Hill had produced an almighty comeback from 3-0 down to level the contest in Doha. His progress in the competition again this year means the Ireland player has matched how far he went in last year's event. Despite a difficult start to the group stages, he progressed to the knockouts, which also included a win over Frenchman Nicolas Mortreau in the round of 24.